You are now listening to A Cure for Your Opinion. Here's your host, with your host, Michael Magnus. You are now listening to A Cure for Your Opinion with your host, Michael Magnus.
No, those are awesome.
Like a Secret Service.
I was going to
agent.
ask you about them, but I wanted to wait and bring it up while we're recording. Musician must have great headphones, right?
Yeah, I mean, I've been rocking like iPhone headphones for, I don't know, all my life until like 5 minutes ago when I got I got these like two or 3 months ago.
Yeah.
Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, you might want to be a little bit closer to it. Extend it out this way.
Bring this guy.
I had to hunch
You
over.
can also put a chair up and down.
There we go.
I'll adjust mine while we're...
Yeah, while we're doing it. I don't want to give you like 1,000 things to edit, but
You're good.
I didn't want to go through the whole time with awkward.
We probably won't edit it anyways. I just have to deal with it.
Right.
It's part of the show.
Yeah, that's totally the way to do it. I'm like such an anti-editor.
Yeah, you don't want to put on a pretty face and be fake. So, I got a story. Well, introduce you as Ty Richards, but I got a story for you. I wanted to bring it up just to introduce you. When we were hanging out a couple of years ago in Austin, at Jeff's house, and we were listening to music, you were playing songs and stuff. They're like, "Oh yeah, I like this one. I like this one." I'm like, "Man, that's really good music." And then you're like, "Yeah, that's my song I've been working on." And I was blown away knowing that you made that song. You know what I mean? Like you hear songs on the radio and you have artists that you follow, but to hear really good music and be like, "Oh my gosh, you made that?" It was kind of surreal. You know what I mean? Like it just felt. And I'm not like trying to hype you up, but it was a moment where I was like, "Wow, he's like really good at this." Because when you were playing the music, I thought you were playing music that you liked, not your music. I was like, "Yeah, that's pretty good stuff."
Yeah, it's kind of funny. There's kind of this threshold that you hit where it's like if people are playing music past a certain age, then, and I'm not trying to hype myself up either, but if you're a dad and you've got 3 kids and you're still playing music, it better not suck. I mean, and I'm not saying my music is the best. I think my music is very like just me messing around, but at the same time, I don't know. Once I hit 30, got 3 kids, I'm married.
Right.
If I'm gonna make music, I'm gonna make good music.
Right.
I don't have time. I don't have time to waste like making crap.
Yeah, that's a really, really good way to look at it. You know what I mean? You're kind of all in.
That's kind of I don't want to like cuss on your deal.
Oh no, please fucking cuss.
Okay.
Please fucking cuss.
I mean, to me, it's actually a really big shit test for my band. So I make all my records by myself, but then I go to play them out live, and I've played with so many different musicians over the years. But that's kind of my shit test: is are you a dad? Because if you're a dad and you're still playing music at least semi-professionally, then you're gonna be good. It's like an instant test.
You've made it. Your wife accepts it, so
Yeah.
you don't suck that bad. She didn't have the talk with you, like, "Hey, honey, you suck really, really bad. You need to stop doing this."
And even then, like a lot of the guys I play with are fully professional. It's all they do is music. All they play is music. So that's even more. If you're a dad and you're playing totally professional, like I'm not even technically a fully professional musician. I like, it supplements my income, I guess.
Right.
I'm not like paying all my bills with music though.
It'd be interesting to see how you define professional. Like, I would definitely say you're on the professional level. You just don't make all of your income from that soul thing. But I mean, if you listen to your music, it's hard to tell the difference between that and someone who does only music, you know?
Right. I guess I would technically classify a professional musician as someone who... You're probably right.
Yeah,
I probably still am a professional musician, but I'm not like making 100% of my income off of music. Is I guess what I'm getting at.
Right.
Which that would be nice. That's my goal. Is I want to be able to like just play music and not have to do other stuff.
Right.
Although I still like all the other stuff that I do. I do a lot of design. I run a boutique agency. I run an indie label and doing all this stuff. But
So it's all pretty much art-based stuff that you're doing anyways.
Yeah, I've definitely like got both feet in kind of like I got one foot in like the visual world and one foot in the musical world,
Right.
I would say.
That's cool, dude. So you just recently had one on. That was a big deal to me too, because when you posted on your Facebook that, hey, one of my songs made it to, or track, song or track,
Whatever you
whatever,
want to say. Same difference.
It's a layman, it's song. One of my songs made it on Shameless, and we were obsessed with that show at the time.
Yeah.
Obsessed. So it was really cool for me to see that, man.
Did y'all end up seeing that episode?
Yeah.
Did
Oh, yeah.
See the one
Yeah.
it was on? It's like episode, like season 8, episode 2, or
Yep,
something like that.
that was it.
I hadn't watched a lot of the show, and so I was wowed by the show. I was like, holy crap, this is an amazing show. Shameless.
Have you seen the beginning of it, or did you only see the
So
season?
I'll admit I haven't watched all of it. I've only watched like 4 or 5 episodes from the first season, and then the first 2 episodes of the
Right.
So I've got like,
There's a big gap in there.
yeah, I didn't have time to like go and watch and binge watch all of it.
No, that song fit really well. The what's the name of it again? Going out for
a cigarette,
right?
That's gonna
Yeah.
be your theme song.
Yeah,
man,
that's
on
it,
the
man.
show.
So that'll, if you guys started this at the beginning, that's the first 30 seconds of this.
Yeah, that's the song that was on Shameless. The first 30 seconds. And
It feels like that song feels like you're going out for a cigarette. Like, what inspired you? Did you make the song and then name it, or did you name it and then make it?
let me think of the story of that. Every song is kind of different. For this song, I would say, what did I do? I had made all the music up front. It started out as a song that I was producing for my brother, because I was producing his album and my album at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
And then as I was making it, I stole it back. I was like, TC, this song is cool. It's not you. The song is my song now. I'm taking back the song that I'm producing for you. And then the song was totally done musically, and then I added lyrics on the top at the end, which most of the songs on Zillion, that's the debut album that I put out, I guess, February 2017, like a year ago.
Mm-hmm.
Pretty much a whole record was done that way, where I did all the music and didn't even think about lyrics or melody until the end. And yeah, Going Out for a Cigarette, that started out as mumble tracks. So that whole record is done with mumble tracks, where I would just da 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 da, and I would just hum a cool melody with nonsense lyrics.
Mm-hmm.
And then I would go back and listen to it. I was so bored of like the regular way of writing that I would just listen to the nonsense and just write down what I thought I was hearing. I'd put the vocals really low in the mix, and I would just, oh, that sounds like I'm saying that.
Right.
And I would just write down 50 lines until I would get this kind of, oh, this is starting to, I kind of saw something that could turn into a story.
Wow.
And
So
then the story kind of just happened organically out of it. But I'll say it's roughly influenced by a story that I heard from Emily's mom. She was talking about, you always hear this story about these like husbands like leaving their wives, right?
Mm-hmm.
Where they're like, they just like one day they're just gone,
Right.
Like leave their kids and
Yeah.
wives. And
my dad went to the store, and that was the last time I saw his.
Right.
Oh, nobody
but
listening.
she was
had that.
telling an actual story of how like her friend, they joke about it now because it was like 30 years later, but he literally was like, I'm going out for a pack, babe. And then they never saw him again.
So
So that's kind of, I think, maybe like where I was pulling it from. I had just heard
Yeah.
that story like a couple weeks before that. I think I was pulling it from that. And then it just
going out
kind
for a
of
cigarette.
turned into this whole story. To me, that whole album is really abstract, but you can kind of hear it how you want to hear it. You can find your own meaning in it because the
Right.
lyrics are kind of crazy. But I hear it as like, I interpret it as there's this woman who is in love with this other person who's just totally abusive and,
Right.
I don't know, not there. And then to me, it's kind of from the perspective of another guy looking at that relationship and is kind of like, why don't you be with me? I'll take care of you a lot better than this clown.
Ah, yeah.
That's kind of how I'm hearing it.
Yeah.
But that's kind of what I like about a lot of my music is people can kind of just find their own meaning in it.
It feels like I remember hearing stories like that when I was younger. I don't know. I wonder why we don't hear it as much anymore. Maybe like there was less communication, less phones and stuff, and people would go out like they really were going to get some milk, and they just got hit by a car or something. It disappeared or whatever.
Right. Well, now there's constant communication. It's
Right.
like, oh,
You could track on your phone where somebody is at. You're constantly texting.
someone's going out for a cigarette in reality now. they're going out for an e-cigarette maybe, and then they go out, and then they're gonna send like 5 text messages in between the time that they
Right.
leave and come back in 30 minutes.
Hopefully not while they're driving.
Back then, that's not how it was, man. I mean,
No.
before cell phone, even I say back then, that's like not even like 20 years
20
ago.
years ago, yep.
When you'd go out for the day, it's like you were gone the whole day, honey. I'm going to work.
Yeah.
I'll see you in 9 hours, maybe if you have a commute. And there's no communication
No.
between then.
That's a big change in 20 years. That's a big change for humanity in 20 years.
There's almost too much communication now. I think that's
Oh,
part
I
of the
agree.
problem with like
I agree.
society now is there's over communication of everything.
There's too many avenues in which to communicate.
And none of the avenues are good either. Like communicating through Facebook or text message. Yeah, you've got emojis and stuff that can kind of convey like
That's the evolution of text. Like,
I've just learned to like put a freaking emoji after everything where it's like I'll put a laugh cry or I'll put an upside down smiley face just so people freaking know that I'm joking.
right.
Because people don't know. People are assuming that everything is offensive now. And
Yeah,
I'm like,
they kind of project their internal feelings onto your text.
right. You kind of have to do that, but at the same time, it sucks that you have to do that.
Yeah.
I think like Facebook and text messaging is like destroying communication between everyone. I think it's a big source of a lot of the problems we're having, like in America right
Yeah.
now.
You think like social problems and
Yeah, social problems and just like all the everybody's offended by everything. Everybody's looking to be offended by everything, and
yeah, that's why we named the podcast "A Cure for Your Opinion." I don't know if we had chatted about that before. It's like your
talked a
opinion.
little bit about
your
it, yeah.
opinion sucks. And sorry that you're offended. So here's the cure for
that.
your shit show that you got going on.
Yeah.
Yeah, we've been sucked into that show Black Mirror recently, and it's like perfect going along the lines of what we're chatting about now. I think I've talked about it. Like,
Just watched like 4 episodes of that.
Oh.
They're the only like
they're
4
intense,
episodes.
man. They're super intense.
Yeah, but I like that it's all technology based. It's all kind of
It's all stuff that's going on now,
Mm-hmm.
and it shows how we're overly attached. Which episodes have you seen?
So I've only seen really like the first season and the second season. Maybe not all the second season, but the one that stuck out to me the most was that guy. That one I just watched that episode where that lady's husband dies, and she like
Oh.
starts like talking on the phone with this like AI
Yeah, they
simulation
copy
of her
his-
husband.
They
'cause she
take
wants
all
to
his
feel-
social media and they copy what they thought his personality would be.
Oh my gosh!
Yeah,
I think-
she gets super attached to it.
And I think that's a real thing that people are trying to do right now too. I think I've seen like some things online that people are trying to like create, I don't know, AI simulations of people based on all, because there's so much data on us. Even for those of us that aren't even online that much, there's still a crap ton of data.
That's scary.
Yeah. Like Facebook knows everything that we like, every comment that we make, that's all cataloged into their algorithm. And so I know this because I do Facebook ads for myself and a lot of clients that with my agency. And so I'm like on the other end of that creepiness where I know that I can target like everyone in Dallas that smokes pot and loves Taco Bell and just show ads to those people. You know, like you can get it so narrow. You could, I mean, whatever. And they have a Chihuahua or whatever.
Yeah.
Like you can get so
Yeah, and you
narrow
can put
with
the
it.
ad right in front of their face.
Yeah,
That's scary.
I could show the ad to 100 people. And you aren't showing it to a bazillion people. You're only
Right.
showing it to 100.
But those are the exact people you want to see it.
Right.
So it's narrowed down. I was freaked out the other day. I was talking to Lucia about this. We were talking about hot tubs for like 2 days. And I got on Facebook Messenger, and there was a hot tub ad on there. And I don't know if like a few months,
Dude.
I think a few months, like 3 or 4 months ago, I may have Googled something about a hot tub. But I was like, it got in my head, and I was like,
the NSA is listening, man.
I don't know.
Or at least Facebook ad people are listening. Yeah, because I've seen that test. Somebody did it with like, because hot tub is pretty weird. You don't talk about hot tubs a lot. That's a pretty good indicator.
It was on the Facebook Messenger feed. Like you're like, message from so-and-so, message from so-and-so, and there was an ad right in the middle.
So I haven't figured out that part of advertising yet, but I know without a doubt for that same reason, I've proved that multiple times now where it's like, there's definitely the mic that's on our phones is freaking listening. There's no way that it couldn't be for it to get hot tub. We tested it with cat food where like we were just like cat food for like a week.
Yeah.
A couple of friends of mine would say that I think this is before we had a cat, so now
Okay.
it might make sense that we have cat food, but we would both say cat food into our phone for like a week. Phones weren't like engaged or
right.
anything, and
You had
and
the Black Mirror on?
Sure enough, we saw cat food ads, dude.
Dude.
Like cat related stuff popped up.
That's scary.
Why don't people care about it more, man? I mean, you and I are talking about it, and even you and I are kind of like, well, that's the reality that we live in.
Yeah, we just accept
and
it.
like in the 80s and the 90s, if that were like a real thing, people would be freaking out because the technology that we are around and immersed in every day wasn't around. You know, there was no Facebook, there
Yeah.
were no personal computers, there wasn't even the idea of an iPhone.
I think we're not saying anything because it's like, okay, then you don't have to use your phone, and
Yeah.
that's what we're not willing to give up.
I blame the boomer generation.
It's not
like,
the millennials.
It's like our parents' generation,
Yeah.
basically, because my dad has this mentality of like, I'm like, dude, the NSA, like they really are surveilling stuff. Like they know what we're saying, and I wouldn't say like they're listening, like they aren't like tuned in, like what's Ty saying right now, but they're recording and cataloging
Right.
everything. So the minute that someone is of national interest, they can be like, all right, let's go into Ty's catalog. We think Ty could be a terrorist. Now
Right.
let's go into his complete data record that we have. And they're transcribing everything. That was kind of the whole, that was more of a big controversy like in 2013, 2012, that area. But it's still going on.
Yeah, that was with Snowden and everything, right?
Right. But I say I blame the boomers because like my dad has the mentality of like, well, I've got nothing to hide. Like, yeah, I care about privacy, but I've got nothing to hide, so who cares?
Yeah.
But I think that kind of defeats the purpose of like,
Yeah.
you know, it gets into the whole like I guess it's the Sixth Amendment, the search and seizure amendment, where
Right.
you know, I guess we're being searched
Constantly.
whether we know it or like it or not. It's
Yeah, there was some loophole that the NSA used. That I saw it.
through
It
the
was in the
Patriot
movie,
Act, wasn't it?
Yeah,
Something?
in the movie Snowden, to where they could
I
basically
never saw
do whatever
that
they want.
movie.
It was a like nationwide digital search warrant, essentially.
Yeah.
For everybody at all times.
It's one of those things to me. It's like a macro version of, like when you're driving, there's like 1,000 things you could get pulled over for while you're driving. Like if you're in the turn lane and you're going to turn right, if you don't turn exactly into the adjacent lane, if you go like
You
into
switch over
if you go into
while
the next,
turning.
like everybody does that every day. But it's illegal. So pretty much everyone's breaking the law every day because there are a bajillion little tiny, if you don't put your blinker on 100 feet before,
Right.
that's also illegal. So there's like 1,000 little things that don't matter that a police officer could pull you over for. I see this whole like surveilling thing as kind of a version of that, where it's like we're probably all like saying things that maybe aren't illegal, but we're like they're borderline illegal. Like me and my brothers have a group text where it's anything goes.
Yeah.
Like
I think everybody has some group text
everyone,
like that.
if you admit it, like everyone, like within their family or within a group of bros, like you talk about things that you could not ever say on Facebook because it's hilarious. There's just stuff like that's the nature of comedy. Like comedy is offensive in its nature.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so, but if all that stuff is being cataloged,
Yeah.
I can't say that word, then that's just like
And then it's used
stuff
against
that
you
can be used against
out
you
of context.
20 years later. And
Right.
we see it every day.
Right.
Like stuff that people say 20 years ago is constantly being used against them.
Mm-hmm.
Some like people are getting in. I saw some dude get in trouble because he liked a Twitter post a couple weeks ago that was from was like, I don't know, it was like an inappropriate thing. I don't know.
Right.
It's just
And he liked it.
yeah.
Yeah, it's scary. That's also some Big Brother stuff. It's like, be careful what you do because we'll use it against you. And then everybody's gonna mess up, like you said, on a daily basis.
Yeah.
And then if you ever do anything to upset them, whoever them is, then they're gonna be like, hey, we've got a catalog against you. And It's
Yeah.
all coming back to bite you in the ass.
Yeah. Whoever happens to be behind the wheel.
Yeah. I've always wondered that too. Like Like if you like, a lot of times you think they've got like these long-term schemes going on where they're slowly trying to take over the world, and I'm like, I don't know, because they're probably only living to be like 80, 85 too.
Yeah, I think it's possible, but I think it's more likely that it's just a control thing, and it's people talk about government conspiracies and stuff like that, and I'll admit it, like I actually love to like learn about stuff like that. I don't care if it's true or not. I like knowing all the JFK theories. That's a big thing with my new album, Welcome to Flat Earth.
Right.
It just kind of
such an awesome name.
The album is called Welcome to Flat Earth, and to me, like I love things like Flat Earth because it's just amazing, dude. There's like this whole community of people.
Yeah.
I didn't even know it was a thing until like a year ago. They really think the Earth is flat, and I've got to the point where it's like the dumber and more far-fetched it sounds, the more interested I am in it.
Yeah.
And I like to know the arguments of everyone. So
That's a great quality to have.
I like to learn from people. So, and I think we can learn from anyone, even like someone who you consider the biggest idiot, the biggest jerk.
Right.
You can learn from them.
Right.
And I
You can learn what to do or what not to do.
Right, right. So I like and I just like the idea of conspiracies. I just think they're like
I've
fun.
always been fascinated
It's like
by it,
my
too.
version of sports. Like some people like watch sports. I like to know all the 3 or 4 different theories on JFK and like 9/11 theories and all this stuff. To me, it's not about whether it's true. And this is where you get into the flat Earth thing. The flat Earth thing is amazing because it's in conspiracy land, because it is kind of a land you can go to on YouTube especially. It's like the end all be all conspiracy.
Yeah.
Because
it envelops every other conspiracy.
Dude,
Everything feeds into that.
it's
illusion.
like, why was JFK assassinated? Oh, because he was gonna expose flat Earth. And it's
so true.
It's
the biggest one. You're right. It's the biggest one.
It is the all encompassing. Like everything can feed into the flat Earth theory. But I think the thing, I first like got into it because I was entertained by it, and I love like reading YouTube comments. And
Yeah,
I love
the top comments are always my favorite.
That's another guilty pleasure. Is I'll read for like an hour. I'll just read YouTube comments. I'm like, dude, these people are getting at it.
Yeah,
and watching.
There's some geniuses on there that comment too.
Yeah,
and some tards.
Right,
both sides.
Yeah, it's amazing. But here's the thing: like the original reason why I named the record, my new record's coming out April 20th, 420. And
such a special date.
Yeah, it's a special day for a lot of people. I'll admit, like my fans, it's so fun. I'm such a poser. Like I don't even smoke marijuana, but I just know that I'm like always been like an honorary stoner.
You don't look like a stoner at all, Ty. Not at all. I don't know where you're.
I literally have
here.
people come up to me like at least like every week. They're like, "Hey man, do you know where I could get some shrooms?" I had someone ask me where I could find acid in Austin. I'm like, dude, man, I kind of take it as a badge of honor because I'm like, I'm like, but I can't help you, man. I don't know where to find the acid. I don't know where you get acid these days. But yeah, I named the record. I named the record "Welcome to Flat Earth" because I thought it was funny that my dad got in a fist fight with his friend over flat Earth.
Recently.
50-year-old men.
Recently.
Yeah, this was I guess like 9 months ago is when I was like kind of envisioning I want to make a new album. Before I even did anything on the album, I came up with this title and I wanted it to be called "Welcome to Flat Earth." And yeah, he got in a fist fight with one of his good friends who is a hardcore flat earther. And what's amazing to me is like a ridiculous idea like flat earth. If it's really that ridiculous, then why do people get in fights over it? Like people are deeply offended by flat earth. Like you could be like a 9/11 truther and people are like, whatever, or like JFK conspiracies, whatever, that's stupid, who cares? But you start talking about flat earth and like there's no better way to like completely lose friends. Right. People completely write you off if you even just like mention flat earth. And my dad, he has some history behind it, so he like takes deep offense to the idea of flat earth because his dad, my grandpa, look him up on Wikipedia. He's like basically my claim to fame. Like he's the most famous person that I like know personally. Probably he was a 4-star general in the Air Force. he helped. He was in the Korean War. He was in in
Wow.
special ops in Vietnam, where he was like he was in this group called the Black Ravens. They were like they were
That's a
stripped.
badass
They were
name.
stripped of rank, and they were doing stuff in Laos. Like we weren't even supposed to be in Laos.
Wow.
Like if they were captured, they were fucked.
Yeah.
Stuff like that. But yeah, and he like helped develop GPS,
Right.
global positioning system. He helped like more or less like invent and like bring this stuff to rise. This stuff
So
was
your
in the
dad
military.
sees it as people disrespecting your grandfather.
Yeah, he sees it as like, dude, like he's like, my dad was there. Like he literally,
Right.
like made.
So
that
essentially,
stuff.
when he runs into a flat earther, they're saying your dad was full of shit.
Well, that's the crux of the flat Earth argument. Is the flat Earthers like say basically, for the Earth to truly be flat, you're saying everything to come out of NASA is false.
Yeah.
It's all propaganda.
There's a whole conspiracy about the way planes fly and the pilots, the GPS is fixed and the pilots are being tricked. Every single one of them, right?
Right. I think it's funny. I know so much about. I've seen so much of these flat earthers. I can pretty much give you any of their counter arguments. I mean, I can pretty much be a flat earther right now because I know they have a counter argument for freaking everything. Like all the like 20 things that you would initially think like, well, duh. They have a counter argument.
So what do you think
for
the
all of it.
motive is
The motive for
for a flat earther? There's a deep psychological motive in there.
I think that's what I like. That's one of the reasons why I named the album "Welcome to Flat Earth" because to me it doesn't matter if the Earth is flat or a globe or triangle or donut or whatever people think it is. What I like about the whole flat Earth movement because it's a lot of people, dude. It's not like 12 people. When
Oh,
you
no,
look
it's
at
a
these
lot.
videos, it's like millions of people have watched it. What I like about it is the deeper human psyche side of it, which is really saying, because what flat earthers are really saying is, they're saying I don't trust authority, and they're saying everything that we know as truth, which 99% of people are going to say, like the Earth is a globe. Yeah, no shit. We know that as a fact. What they're saying is everything that we know as a quote unquote fact or the truth is hearsay. We've all heard it from a teacher, from a parent,
Who heard it
from
from
a
somebody.
scientist. It's all everything that we know as truth is based on hearsay. Who did you hear that truth from? Did you read it in the Bible? Did you get it from a scientist? Did you get it from a politician? All these ideas came from somewhere, and not like none of us can afford to like go fly to space and look at Earth.
Right.
So that's to me the magical like psyche part of the flat Earth thing that I love. It gets to the deeper idea of like how do you define
what is truth?
what is truth? How do you define authority? How do you know who you can trust? How do you know that this news network is better than this other
Right.
news network? How do you know how do you know they're both not
Right.
wrong? And it really poses a lot more questions than it does answers, but that's kind of what I like about it. I like the idea that we really don't know shit.
Yeah.
That's what I love about it.
I completely agree. So I feel fascinated on the idea that they have something to stand on. There's something tangible. Now they can say, okay, well, the earth is flat. All of these things have been lies. And this gives us a reason to start questioning everything. Whereas I don't think you should be at either end of the spectrum. You can't just go through life assuming that everything you hear is truth. And then you can't go
Right.
through life being completely paranoid and just saying, no, no, no.
Yeah.
Not, okay, let me logically examine this. You're saying no. Or let me logically examine this. You're saying, yeah, that's truth.
Yeah.
I think we need to be somewhere in the middle. That's just my
Right.
thought.
Yeah,
I could be wrong.
If you don't trust anyone, dude,
That's a shitty life.
How could you exist? I mean, even just, the most basic things like how could I? It's like I trust like my wife to like take
Right.
care of our girls and do so many things.
Right.
Like I couldn't be married. I couldn't. How do I know you're not going to take this interview and turn it into this spin? Like I'm. Like we're having this meeting because I trust you and
Right.
you're my friend and
Well, now that you're here, I'm going to confront you about some issues that's popped up on your NSA records.
But yeah, I just like trust is the basis of everything. Trust is the basis of money, even like money. Like when we go to the store and we buy something, we're all trusting that money is like worth something. Like if
Right.
we all like lost trust in the dollars that we're carrying around, or our banks, that they're gonna like
Yeah.
actually like keep all the money that we put in
Yeah.
our, like, society is totally based on trust.
It is.
And so it's a scare. I get why it's like a threat to people, for people to like question things that seem like absolute truths, like the Earth is as a globe.
On the other side, people that get really pissed about it have found a lot of identity on the other side. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like, because I'm not like pro flat Earth, but I'm not like, hey,
Yeah.
flat Earthers are completely retarded. I've used the I hope I don't get politically incorrect bus for that. I've used the word retard twice in this podcast.
Whatever, man.
If I've offended somebody, go fuck yourself.
I
Anyways.
agree. My name is Ty Richards, and I endorse that statement.
I don't even remember where I was at. I will tell you one image I have in my head. He goes, hey, it was a flat earther, and he goes, if the earth was really flat and it showed a pair of Converse and it, like the soles were
Right.
slightly curved, or if the earth was really
Dude.
round, they would be shaped like this.
I want to show you this one. This is hands down the best flat Earth video I've ever seen. But it's this guy named, what is his name, like Tayshaun or something. Just look up flat Earth Tayshaun, like Tae. It's this awesome dude. He's like, and it's that kind of
Yeah.
ridiculous humor. But he's got a whiteboard. He's like, it's like, here's what globe earthers believe. They believe the Earth is a fucking globe. And then
He's pissed.
And then here's like, I'm a flat earther, man. It's just it's like a snow globe. It's like a dome. It's like, and his whole thing is like, if you don't believe the Earth is flat, you can suck my nuts. it's just it's like one of the funniest videos I've ever
gosh.
seen. But that's
Next thing I want to do on the podcast, I want to put a screen up here so that when someone brings up a video like that, we can sit here and watch it together.
yeah.
That'd be perfect for that.
Yeah, man, we can get some bells and whistles going. We can cut to that video really quick.
Perfect. Yeah, so I think we talked about it last time. I saw another one that was based off the flat. It's like, if you like the flat Earth theory, check this one out. And I clicked it, and I think I told you about this. It's a Russian guy, and he goes, trees aren't really trees. Did I tell you about this?
I want to say you sent that to me or something. Yeah.
Okay, so he goes, trees aren't really trees, they're bushes. And I'm like, what? So it's I watched this 1 hour little mini documentary. And essentially what he's saying is, look at these mountains. These mountains aren't mountains. That's the next part. You're like, trees aren't trees and mountains aren't mountains. He goes, trees are bushes and mountains are petrified trees that have
Yeah.
been cut off at the base.
Dude, I've seen it. He said, mountains are trees.
What the fuck? He's like, yes, they used to be about 60 to 70 miles high, and that's what produced all the oxygen on the planet and made the dinosaurs so big. And I was like, oh shit, like it makes sense. I watched it for 1 hour, right? I think it's about an hour. It's long. At the end of it, I was like, 5% of me believes this. 95% of me is like, shut the fuck up, Michael. And this 5% of me is like, he's telling the truth, man. This guy's got it figured out.
That's the amazingness of the internet right there.
Because I can't tell you right now, the flat earther thing, I can't tell you that the earth is not flat. I have no proof.
It's kind of like
I won't argue with you. I think it's highly unlikely that it is because that's so much to cover up. And why? Even if you
Yeah.
gave me a why, I would say, you know how many people you had to keep quiet?
Right. That's where I get into a lot of government conspiracies. I just feel like the government, they're basically like the dudes who work at the DMV and the people who like run the post office.
Yeah.
Those are the same kind of people that run our government. Like, they're not.
Next, please.
Like, there's no way those kind of people like are running
No.
some kind of insanely
All
elaborate
working
plot.
together.
But I will say there is a huge, I think there's a lot to say for, I think there are people that like to stir up chaos.
Mm-hmm.
And when you stir up chaos, you don't have to have any grand master plan to stir up chaos. Like,
No.
like we saw a couple weeks ago, any kid can run into a school and start shooting up kids. That happen, things like that in the world and in America happen a lot. But I think there are politicians and government officials that at least, at minimum, capitalize on the chaos
Absolutely.
and potentially could stir up and create chaos. And that when there is chaos, that is an opportunity to get more control,
Right.
and to get more whatever, whatever you want to call it, government overreach or whatever, where there's, just taking over stuff.
Right.
I think that is a real possibility and a real possible reality that we could be living in.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so I would much rather be the dude who's like, I don't trust anyone, than be the dude who's like, I automatically trust everyone. 'Cause
Yeah.
I feel like that's stupid, man. Like, why would I'm a huge fan of like trust but verification, and people like talk about that a lot with marriage, right? So that's a touchy subject too, where like if you say like I trust my wife, but at the same time, and she trusts me, but at the same time, we have free reign on each other's text messages and on each other's Facebook account.
Right.
Like at any point, I invite her. I say, you can totally look through all my Facebook messages, all my text messages, all that stuff. And I think that's a loving thing to have that kind of relationship where you have license to spy on each other.
Yep, I completely
Like we have
agree.
the Find My iPhone thing, and that's
Yep,
more useful.
we're the
Like,
same
hey,
way.
Emily's not answering her phone. Like,
Right.
if she, broke down on the road somewhere, I can find her. But we give each other free reign to spy on each other because we love each other and
Right.
because we care about our relationship, and we don't see that as like a negative thing. So that's like a micro version, but I think that's useful on a macro version. Like there needs to be accountability. Like, yeah, I want to trust, I want to trust the FBI. I want to trust local police departments. I want to trust our president. I want to trust congressmen, all these different authorities I want to trust teachers. But there's got to be some kind of mechanism to verify that they're trustworthy. There's got to be some kind of accountability in there, and that's where you get into things like, I don't know, like this is an example of like a systemic thing, but like teachers unions, like especially at the college level, dude, there's like some totally like fucked up lame, not just lame, but like misleading professors and like bad professors out there, but they can't get fired once they have tenure. You can't fire those dudes.
What does that mean?
There's no accountability. Like once you have tenure, you're like locked in. Like you've gone up the totem pole and you've been there a certain amount of years, and you can get away with murder basically. Like there's some I say basically, but there are like some professors in California that have literally like punched kids and like in getting in arguments about political
keep their
stuff,
job.
and they still have a job even after like assaulting someone.
I don't understand that. So that had to have formed somewhere down the line where their professors or teachers were losing their jobs at quick rates or something, and they established tenure.
Well, unions made a lot of sense like 100 years ago, because like factories and even academies, like they were a new thing, and there needed to be some kind of protection in like if you're going to work in a factory, because that was in a time when there were like massive monopolies,
Right.
And
so they could pay you shit and screw you
and
over.
I'll admit, like I'm a huge fan of the free market and capitalism, but there are some like extreme times where you've got to rein that stuff in. There like have like antitrust kind of things, because there was, especially in like the early 1900s, some serious like monopoly problems.
Right.
And that's when you needed unions. But I just feel like we're like the infrastructure of society is like, I'm getting like way too political. I'm not even a political person, but I am passionate about culture, and I feel like the reason why I like to talk about like academia and media are that they're way more influential to me than like the government. They have way more power to me over culture. But yeah, I just feel like we're living in a system that's antiquated, man. Like our school system is basically the school system of the 1920s.
It's not evolving much.
It was designed to like create factory workers to fill these factories with work. It was designed to kind of like fit that demand.
Yeah, I saw a perfect picture. It was like a little metaphor for that. It has a tree, and it's like a classroom outdoors, and they're all animals. And there's a teacher. It says, "All right, kids, your test for the day, your standardized test for the day is to climb this tree." And there's like an elephant, there's a giraffe, there's a goldfish in a bowl, then there's a monkey, then there's a tiger, you know what I mean? And they're expecting all these animals to have different natural abilities to climb this tree. And I guess that tree would be the example of making a factory worker,
Right.
But someone who naturally is an artist, so we're both artists just in different ways, right? Someone's naturally an artist, someone who likes to do construction work. They're like, I love to build things, right? They don't need to be in a factory. An artist doesn't need to be in a factory. Someone might love things going smoothly and organized, and they're like, I love assembly lines. I want to work in a factory, and I want to make it more efficient, more efficient.
Right.
I think the world would be better if we taught people in school how to pursue what they're passionate about.
Dude.
Not teaching them.
Hell yeah.
Dude, I don't know how many
Hell
hours I wasted in school learning shit I do not use. And then 8 hours a day, that's retarded.
Can you imagine how
Fourth
much
time, retarded.
Yeah.
Why would you go to school 8 hours a day? The other 4 hours you could be learning skills like basic skills that you don't learn.
Yeah, dude, this is the reason why we're starting our kids in homeschool next year. For that exact reason, because, dude, it's so inefficient, man. They spend 8 hours a day learning this crap that they don't need to know. Mm-hmm. I mean, there's stuff they need to know in there, but it's like I feel like at this point, like the ratio of like bullshit to actual stuff they need to know,
it's more than half.
Dude,
yeah,
it's more than half. It's at a tipping point now, where by the time my kids are in high school, I want my kids to know what they're passionate about, and they're going to be having like apprenticeships, like already pursuing what they want to do in high school. Man,
they could have been building skills.
Can you imagine all the time we could have spent like apprenticing under someone or doing something we're actually passionate? Like by the time we're at the beginning of high school, people are waiting till after they're out of college, and even then, people don't figure out shit until they're like 30 or older.
And I'm not trying to say it's too late, but it's wasted time.
Yeah.
It's a lot of wasted time. And that's a lot of stress on kids to go to school for 8 hours a day.
Dude.
The Shalia was the last one on the podcast. She's a close friend of mine. I don't know. Did you see that podcast?
Yeah, I saw part of it. I saw probably half of it.
She trains here at the academy.
She's awesome.
She teaches some classes. But her whole family was homeschooled.
Really?
And like when they go off talking, we're like, oh, here go the Lindsays again, right? But they're super smart.
Yeah.
And she has like a lot of like basics. She's only 21. A lot of basic skills that I didn't have when I was 21 because she was homeschooled, and I think she had an opportunity to learn them. What I mean by basic skills is an understanding how electrical circuit in a house works, or how to build a computer, or how to replace a tire, things like that. And people will learn individual, but you should be able to know all of those things because you have time to learn them. So when someone breaks down on the side of the road and a young lady doesn't know how to replace her tire, it's like you had plenty of time that our society wasted you going to school that someone could have taught you how to do that in 30 minutes.
Dude, the biggest thing for me, this is like not like a fun subject people love to talk about, but it's freaking like personal finances, dude. If they gave kids even just one class on how to do even just like a basic granny, like what do they call it, little reconciling your bank account, it seems so boring, but like, dude, I go ebbs and flows where I'm like on top of it, I'm not, but when I do that basic shit, like my whole life is better.
Yeah, it takes a lot of stress off your shoulders. I remember we had that class, how to write a check, how to balance a checkbook and stuff. But it was never, hey, you make $50,000 a year, don't buy a $60,000 car. Dude. Just because the payments are affordable doesn't mean you can afford the car. Like we were never taught, and there's a reason we're not taught that. Because we'll just go into modern day slavery. Debt is modern day slavery, like super bad.
And our culture is basically based on that. I mean, it's basically based on that. Yeah, I just nice. I mean, just even like get a piece. Like, all right, like my daughter. Like as soon as we get into like 8th, 9th grade zone, like we're gonna be like, all right, get a piece of paper out. Imagine your life. You're 21. You've got a car payment. You've got an apartment rent payment. You got electricity. Here are like the 15 or 20 things that you have, and figure out how much your job that you'd like to be working, how much money are you making, and like paint a picture, like what does your life look like, make a budget for yourself. It's stuff that like people resist, but it's kind of like one of those things. It's just like with exercise or anything else, the answer is usually just basic shit. Like oh, I weigh like 30 pounds over, I'm 30 pounds overweight, what do I do? Dude, there's like a million miracle solutions. Just eat less and work out. Damn.
That's it.
Like, oh my God.
But there's not a magic pill that I can take?
No, but I tried that. It didn't work. No, you didn't try it. You didn't. Because like scientifically, like I did this diet for myself because I've never really done a diet. I think I tried to do paleo for a while and I sucked at it. It's too much to like keep up with in my brain.
Yeah.
I did the most basic freaking diet you can imagine where you know, I would just I figured out on Google like how many calories I need to break even. I'm 6 foot, I'm 6 foot tall. At the time I was 190, which is the most I had ever weighed like, a year ago. And when I met Emily, I weighed 165 or 160 or something.
Right.
It's probably too skinny, but I want to get back to like a normal weight. So I figured out that whatever I need to eat, if I eat like 15 to 1600 calories a day, then I'm good. Like,
Yeah.
And I lost weight really slow. I lost like 2 pounds a month.
But you're still losing weight because you're not eating more than you're expending.
I lost 20 pounds in 9 months. Yeah. And it wasn't, and I didn't have to even think about things that much. I would just think about how many calories am I eating. But it was amazing. I didn't know the caloric value of anything when I started that. I was like, I would hold up an apple and I'd be like, that's 600 calories. I had no clue. Now, like after a week of just thinking about it, now I can look at something and I can be pretty close guess within 100 calories. Right. I could look at a chicken breast and I'm like, yeah, it's going to be 200 calories or 150 calories.
You know what I think part of the problem is there is that we've equated our society nowadays. Everything is so convenient and easy that we've equated comfort with happiness. That as we're comfortable with, I'm going to put all these delicious things in my mouth, tastes so good, so good. Mm-hmm. That's fine. Like I'll have times like even this last week, I ate like all kinds of stuff, but I'm also on the mat trying not to be strangled by 250-pound men on a regular basis. So I'm burning those calories off.
Oh, right. If you mix in working out with it, right. I mean, that changes the whole equation.
So if you say, hey, I'm eating everything I want to eat, but I don't want to work out, it's hard, I don't want to leave my comfort zone, it's exhausting, I'm having to do stuff I don't want to do, then you really get to pick. You can either be comfortable or you can be happy. And usually they're not the same. You can be comfortable and happy, but you don't have to be comfortable to be happy.
Happiness is a bad goal, man. I think in general, the idea of happiness, that is, our entire culture is centered around how do I be happy? But I think that's the wrong goal. Because like think about it, like for me, like anyone who has kids, like if I give this candy to my kids, they're going to be happy. But is that the best thing for me to just give them candy nonstop? Yeah. No. The better thing, I think the better goal, it seems subtle, but it's not. It's huge. I think, and I'm stealing this a little bit I'm reading this book right now, 12 Rules for Life. Have you heard of that? Dude, you need to check it out. It's this guy named Jordan B. Peterson.
Oh, yeah.
Dude, total badass. I love that guy. I just discovered him. But
Carrie came on the podcast. He's like his number one fan. Yeah. And so he's always, because I called him the other day. Anyways, we'll get back to it later. But he was explaining what Marxism was to me.
Oh, yeah.
So he sent me a bunch of Jordan Peterson stuff.
Dude, Jordan Peterson is amazing. He's like the only guy in academia that's not like completely brainwashed to the like postmodernism ideas, but his whole thing is like, don't pursue happiness, pursue meaning. It seems like the same thing, but it's not, man.
Right.
When
meaning is fulfilling.
Dude, meaning is like, if I'm pursuing meaning, there's like a long-term like resonance from that's
helps more than just you.
Yeah, and so that's why.
And then I think happiness ends up being a result of meaning. Like you're
right. There's happiness that kind of goes along with that, but I would say that there's a difference between like happiness and joy. Joy to me is less fleeting than happiness. Happiness to me, it's just my own like
the way you interpret the words,
my own definition of it, I guess probably. But happiness always seems to be fleeting to me.
No, I understand.
Happiness is, oh man, I got this album done. I feel good.
Right.
Like I got this record done. Cool. And then I have this there's this instant emptiness of like, oh, but I need to make another album. Like it's like it never measures up.
It's the path, not the destination.
But when I'm pursuing meaning, it's more like, man, I got this album done. What does this album mean to me? And wow, like I'm pursuing my goal of making a shit ton of albums. Like that's one of my biggest life goals. Like I want to make 30 albums before I die.
How many have you made now?
I've made a bunch, but I've only released 2, which makes me so sad. But at the same time, it inspires me to like keep going. Once I hit 30, my quota is like an album a year, and I would love to work it up to like Beatles frequency, where I could do like 2 albums a year.
So this is going to be your second one in April?
Yep, album 2 is April 20th.
When was your first one?
It was a year ago, so it was February of last year. Zillion. But yeah, man, dude, I'm super stoked about this year is gonna, like, 2018 is gonna be a huge year. So I've got this indie label. We're called Tremolo Records, and I'm gonna be putting out my album and 3 other albums this year. So 4 albums, and actually one came out today. I'm gonna give like a little props for my buddy Jackie Daytona. We just released his album today, and his album's super cool. It's called She's So Hot. Jackie Daytona. And he's a total badass, and he's just
What's his music like?
I classify it as kind of like California garage rock kind of sound. It's
Okay.
like Beach Boys meets, maybe, I don't know if you listen to like OK Go. It's kind of like OK Go meets Beach Boys. It's like rock. It's very hard hitting, like heavy drum and bass,
Right.
but and it's rock, but it's got this like pop. Dude, he's like one of the best songwriters that I know.
That's awesome.
Super cool. And the 2 other albums, I'm putting out an album by James Cook in Austin and a guy named Jonathan Alexander here in Fort Worth. And those 2 albums I actually fully, like, I produced them, and I mixed the albums. I'm gonna be doing all the album artwork on them. I kind of like that full approach of just like
Right.
getting my hands in everything. So I don't know. We're basically just a bunch of like dad rock dudes who just like are committed to putting out a bajillion albums.
Yeah.
And so I really only want to like work with guys who are like, and ladies if they decide to join the party. It's still kind of in its infancy, but really it's just happened organically. Like, I want a way for me and all my friends to, you know, put out records, and put out a lot of records.
And you've always been, knee deep in music since you were little, or
Yeah. I guess I started when I was 10. Like, my grandma got me a little dinky toy guitar, but probably like within 2 or 3 years, I was like writing my own songs, and it's cool. I've kind of gone full circle. The first recording I ever made was on a cassette tape on a karaoke machine. I just plugged 2 microphones, put one on a guitar and one on my vocals, and
Yeah.
recorded it to tape. And this last record, I recorded it all to tape, but I have like a proper like reel to reel tape machine that I use. Of like, my first ever little recording was on tape, and my last record was on tape too. But yeah, I just played in bands growing up through high school. Played with a group of 3 or 4 guys all through high school and half the way through college. Then I got busy with college. I've always been doing a ton of music and a ton of graphic design stuff and like art direction kind of stuff all at once. And it's just the graphic design and art direction stuff pays the bills way. I don't want to say better, but yeah, better, like faster.
It's more efficient.
Right. I mean, I can go out and build a website today and pay my bills.
Right.
Music is just more of it's a labor of love that if it's done right, it can make money, but it's just harder to
What's
do
your
it right.
motivating passion there? Like, what motivates you to release all those albums or make the songs and put in all the little nitty gritty work?
I don't know. I think something clicked in my brain when I moved from Fort Worth to Austin, that when I was living in Fort Worth, I felt this, and I'm not knocking Fort Worth because I love Fort Worth. It's super chill. I would argue that it's actually more chill than Austin.
Just not as weird.
Yeah, it's not as weird, but it is, I would say, more chill. I had this switch in my brain though. Something in me felt like I was dying when I was up here. I wasn't really aware of it. I moved from Fort Worth to Austin. In my mind, I told myself I did it for business because there were a lot more like ad agency kind of opportunities, like for me to like get some more business with my little boutique agency. But once I got down there, I kind of felt like I had permission to be the weird dad who makes albums and grow out my hair to be
Right.
The length of an acid dealer. Up here, I'm not saying other people are oppressed up here, but I had felt, without feeling, I don't know, without really consciously thinking it, I don't know, I didn't realize it, but I was kind of you asked if I was like doing music nonstop, but I had like a 5-year lull there where I did nothing. After college and before I created Zillion last year. And I just kind of felt there's this general vibe that I was feeling in Fort Worth. It was like, man, if you're making albums and you're doing all this stuff, that's kind of irresponsible. Because it costs money, man.
Right.
It costs. I mean, that first album, like, it takes at least 10 grand to like make a decent album,
Wow.
and that's like not even necessarily a great album. Have been great albums made for that for less, but that's like kind of the bare minimum for making like a decent record. And so there's just all these things that go with that I just felt like in my mind, I wouldn't give myself permission to like do that. When I got
Right.
to Austin, it was kind of no holds bar, and I just started being quote unquote weird.
You think because you were surrounded by people who
Yeah, there's a vibe there that was good, and now I'm kind of on the other side of it. So now it's like I see the pros and cons in retrospect to both situations. I see the pros to living in Fort Worth, and the pros and cons to living in Fort Worth, and the pros and cons to living in Austin. I would say Austin, it was a pendulum swing. So where I was like in Fort Worth, I'm like all business. I got my hair slicked back. I'm the agency dude. That's who I am. And I get to Austin, and I remember the first business meeting I showed up for. I'm like, hey man, it's nice to meet you. And I show up. I've got my sports jacket on. I've got my hair looking good. And I'm talking about, yeah, I've got this client. I'm like name dropping clients. Yeah, I work with this client, this guy. And I realized in Austin, no one gave a shit.
Mm-hmm.
No one cared. It was like, they care more that you're like a cool dude to hang out with. That's who you do business
Just
with in
more
Austin. And the culture up here in Fort Worth is like there needs to be kind of signals. Like I need to have I need to be looking nice, looking sharp.
Yeah.
If I had a Rolex or some kind of nice tie that was obviously like a $300 tie, it would send the signal that, all right, I'm totally gonna drop $5,000 for a website with this guy.
Mm-hmm.
In Austin, it's just a totally different culture. So the CEO that I met for that meeting, he showed up in his workout clothes. He was sweating still.
Right.
From
I can
working out.
appreciate that. I can appreciate that more, man, because I feel like when you play, you're playing a part.
Yeah.
So
I am.
yeah,
Definitely.
So if you have to slick your hair back and wear a nice tie and buy a nice watch and wear a sport jacket, because that's what they expect you to do, but that's not who you really are. And that sounds hippie as shit, and I'm kind of hippie, right? Even though you look way more hippie than me.
Yeah, but I would also say I'm kind of also playing the hippie part now. You know what I mean? I can say I feel like I'm more myself, but at the same time, I'm playing the game wherever the game is, and I'm playing the game. In Fort Worth, I play the Fort Worth game. In Austin, I play the Austin game. And I jokingly call myself a poser a lot because I just that to me, I think that's just how the world works. I think the whole idea of being outside the box is kind of stupid because
If you make an effort to be outside of it, then you're still inside of it.
yeah, and then even then, if you are way outside of it, then there's nothing relatable to anyone. I'd rather be on the fringes. So I like the idea of like pushing the envelope, or like Seth Godin has a book called Push the Box, where he gets to that idea of like, don't be in the center of the box and don't be outside the box. Like, be on the outside of the box, pushing the boundaries of the box.
Right.
Or I would say, and another also good strategy is like, maybe be outside the box, but be right on the edge where you can still relate to people and still,
Yeah.
if I walked up to someone and I was like, if I walk up to anyone and say, hey, what's up? My name is Ty Richards, and I'm a flat earther or something, dude, it's so like, you're losing everyone instantly.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying I am a flat earther. I'm just saying like that's an example of like
You gotta
an
pick a side,
outside
dude.
of the box identity that people have.
Yeah.
It's not even relatable.
Yeah. Yeah, it's almost impossible not to identify yourself some way or somehow, depending on the culture that you're living in.
Right. I kind of like the idea of the like the Ferris Bueller thing where he says, what does he say? He's like, I don't really believe in isms. I just believe in myself. Like, I guess he didn't say that. I think John Lennon said that. It was Ferris Bueller quoting
John
Lennon. But I love that idea. I mean, I don't think anybody, maybe people do, but I would say me and a lot of friends that I respect, no one wants to like be lumped in with a group.
No.
Like, who wants to be lumped in with all Democrats, or lumped in with all Republicans, or lumped in with all, like, pick your ethnicity, man. Like, does anybody want like one person speaking for everybody? Dude, fuck that, man. I don't want anyone speaking for me. Like,
Right.
I can speak for myself.
Right. I think there's a part of the human psyche that does want that, the tribal part.
We
of
want to
us.
belong,
Right.
for sure. And I guess maybe that's more of my like my anti not anti
Establishment.
anti-establishmentness, I think I've got some my tendencies to rebel.
I'm the same way. I understand. It feels like I always feel like I want to just like say, oh well, the system we're using now doesn't work. We have this. Let's just say politics, for example. We have a two-party political system, and it's either shit or shit. You really don't have a great choice either way, and you got to pick all the values in this one or all the values in that one. It needs to be a mixture. But I don't complain too much
So
because
binary.
I don't have a fucking solution. So you won't hear me complaining much
Right.
because I'm not a big fan of when someone complains about something but doesn't provide a solution. So I just kind of keep my mouth shut.
That's a good way to think about it, man. I just think politics in general is kind of stupid. I'm not really a political person, but I do care about culture, and I think there are situations where we're kind of forced to be political because politics has invaded our entire culture now. Because it's invaded academia, everyone going through college is like indoctrinated into this political world, and then once they go off from college, they go get jobs. Like they get jobs in the media, they get jobs teaching other kids, they get jobs in the world. And so there's kind of this like, I don't know, freaking like contagious like political ideological bullshit that everybody we live in it now.
Right.
And to some degree, kind of like that idea we were talking about a second ago, where like we have to play the part. Part of the game that we're all playing now is like we're living in a very highly politicized world where whether we like it or not, we have a political view just by living in culture and having thoughts.
Yeah, absolutely.
Which sucks. I hate that. I don't want to subscribe to any like political ideology. I think ideology in and of itself is a bad idea, is a bad thing.
Yeah. I think when you attach identity to ideology, it's the
dude.
biggest issue.
I
nowadays.
agree.
And it's a lack of awareness. People, I myself do it, but I feel like I've become aware of what I'm doing, and then I can take a step back and stop
Right.
it. But when you find like
We all fall into
like
it, man.
let's say the gun argument right now.
Right. Yeah.
People are picking sides, and they will literally argue to like tooth and nail over something, and say, "Well, chill out, man. Why are you arguing?" It's because your identity is found in that.
Yeah.
So let's take a young inner city liberal. Okay, I'm totally stereotyping here, right?
That's fine.
Versus an older rural white male. Okay.
Yep.
Just happens to be white male. Super stereotyping.
Also stereotyping.
Yeah. Fuck your opinion. I'm sorry if you're offended. So, right, liberal says we need all kinds of crazy gun laws. Rural says, you know what? We don't need any gun laws. Come and take it. Come and take it.
Right.
The rural person identifies with the history of his parents and his parents and his parents. And I can relate to that. You identify, this is the way we've been doing this shit for hundreds of years out on the farm. You
Yep.
can't come and take my guns away. And the inner city person says, everything I've seen is people pointing, Tech 9s at each other. It's all gang related stuff. So they identify, you know what, I'm liberal, I'm pro postmodernism, whatever it is. They're just very open. So they say, I identify as new age, moving forward.
Progressive. Right.
And so I'm going to argue tooth and nail to take this away.
Yep.
And then if you threaten my argument, you're threatening my identity because that's who
Yeah.
I am. I'm progressive. And so now it's just that's the battlefield that they're fighting on, but that's not the actual battle.
Right. They're fighting an ideological battle that's not even about people. At that point, you're like, that's why it's so bad, right? That's why everybody's, I don't know, that's why all these online relationships, all these, even just friends that were friends aren't friends anymore because of these reasons. Because these ideological approaches to talking about things, it dehumanizes people.
Yeah.
So they're
it does.
saying, "Oh, you believe that? You're
one of them.
You're not a valid person anymore to me. You're done. I'm done with you forever."
Yeah.
And
all of you.
And what people don't realize when they're saying that, they're saying, "I can't learn from this person," and they're saying, "Yeah." And to me, I think that's the biggest like hit you could give yourself if I say I can't learn from that person. You're basically saying it's not a person. And you're like,
Yeah.
you're not a.
This is the shit that causes genocides, and
Dude.
that's what allowed the Nazis to kill the Jews without thinking twice. They're like,
Yeah.
they're the ones that are screwing up our economic system. There's a reason the banks are failing.
Right.
The dirty Jews, and then
It like super annoys me how people dive straight to the Nazi business, but I've started to see like, I don't know. I guess this is a little bit of a subject change, but to me, like the most interesting thing to me in the world right now is history, and I've never been interested in history before. Because
we have a lot to learn from it.
you have all these people talking about Nazi, like it's basically like, to me, the equivalent of crying wolf at this point. Because if you call like everyone a Nazi, dude,
Right.
is everyone killing 6 million people?
Right.
Dude, okay, I get that there are like tendencies and stuff. I get that, but all of that talk has like led me to like go back into history. I'm like, okay, what did the Nazis do? And you get into that, and dude, this blows my mind. And this to me is a big downfall of academia right now, and really for the last like 30 or 40 years of academia. No one ever talks about, think about World War II. Who won World War II? The Nazis obviously lost World War II, right?
Yeah.
Who won?
That's a relative term.
Right.
I mean,
But think about it.
relative question.
Germany was split in half.
right.
From just kind of a layman's point of view, it's like, dude, why was Germany cut in half? Okay, half of it was the West.
Right.
Was
The
the
Soviets. The US,
I guess it wasn't the UN then. It was like NATO or whatever. I don't know all the details on that. Like I said, I'm not a political person, but learning the history of it, half of it was run by the West. The West side was the West, and the East side was run by Soviet Russia, and it was communist, And so it's just now occurring to me, really just in the last like month or so, like, holy shit, like Russia also won World War II. Like, we beat the Japanese, we beat the Nazis, but also Russia won. And when you go back and look at the actual history of it, dude, like anyone go and Google just communist Russia between like 1930 and 1950 and 60, dude, more
people
more
died.
than 10. I would say they don't know the exact numbers because they
Yeah.
don't keep track. They didn't want to keep track of the body count.
Right.
But it's at least 10 times as much as the Nazis.
Yeah, it
were
was
killed
unreal.
under. Dude, and I never knew that. Like,
And there's been
we aren't taught that in schools.
Nope.
Because the reality was Churchill, like I love Churchill, I think he's awesome. He was a socialist though.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of people in America were socialists. And there were even some hardcore communists. Like Lenin's whole quote is like socialism leads to communism. Blah, blah, blah. This is gonna piss a lot of people off, I'm sure. But the reality is like we all
Real quick, it's the people, it's that demographic that gets offended easily when you
Oh,
talk about socialism.
dude, yeah,
It's-
you're gonna get so much crap. I'm just saying, like, Churchill and America, like, we beat the Nazis knowing full well that Russia was gonna be kind of a victor in the situation too. And dude, like, look at the body count of the Nazis versus the body count of the
Right.
Russians, and then look at the body count of Mao in China.
Yeah.
Dude, it's even more than Russia. It's like more than 100 million. So it's like, if we're basing this on evil, like who's the most evil and what ideologies are more evil? I'm not saying fascism is good at all. It's horrible. But if you look at the body count, communism
Yeah.
is at least 10 times more evil
Right.
than fascism. It's insane. But we don't learn the history. We don't
No.
learn that history
No.
at all. I feel like robbed. It's like
Yeah, we're
history-
using that Nazi example because that's the one at the forefront of our mind. That's the one.
'Cause that's
that
the one
we
you
think of.
hear
That's
about
the
in
one
the
you see all the
media,
movies. Yeah, everything.
in the
The history books.
every movie, everything in the media, everything in academia. Like I went through, like I'm basically a former leftist, just FYI. Like, and I'm not saying I'm a right wing dude now, because I'm not. But I'm a former hardcore leftist. Like when I was in school, I was anti-America, I was anti-war. I even had a joke shirt like from my design program that said like "Ain't no party like a commie party." Like,
Oh, yeah.
like communism is cool.
Well, the
And
idea
it's,
of it
it's the
is-
ideology that's responsible for more than 100 million deaths in the last 100 years.
The idea
It's
of it
cool.
is, but it doesn't work because it doesn't work with like the human mind. It just doesn't
Right.
happen. Greed seeps its way in, and the only way to keep greed like contained is
Yeah.
free capitalism. free market.
There's got to be free thinking, free speech.
Yeah.
That's why I'm a huge fan of that. I basically have, I would say, if I do have politics, I have the politics of probably like a Frank Zappa or something, where he just all throughout like 60s, 70s, 80s, even up into the 90s when he died. He's one of my favorite musicians. He released 60 records, 60 albums before he died.
Wow.
And he died early. He died at like 50 of cancer.
So he's putting out more than one a year, 2 a year. If he started, when he was 20.
Yeah.
Wow.
But he's all about free thinking, free speech. Like
Right.
the like censoring things isn't, even the term politically correct is a Soviet term. It's a Soviet communist
wow.
term.
I did
like
not
look
know
it
that.
up, dude. People don't know this, and I didn't know this. That's why I'm talking about it. It's super interesting to me because
Politically correct is a Soviet term.
yes.
You just blew my mind.
Dude, think about it, man. And
Post
like
that shit on
I just
Facebook.
want to challenge people to like learn history, because like school doesn't teach us all of history. They teach us half of history. They just teach us Nazis are evil, and they are.
Yeah.
But there's something that's more evil to me. Like, not to sound like my grandpa. My grandpa is like, there ain't no commie like a dead commie kind of mentality. But there's a reason why they had that mentality.
Right.
Because they knew they were there.
Yeah, I think it's going to the other end of the spectrum. You can't look at it like you can't like kill all the socialists and commies and stuff.
No,
But
yeah.
I know what you mean.
But we've been deprived. We're only hearing half the
You're
story,
right.
and
You're
it's
absolutely right.
it's blowing my mind still. I'm saying all this as someone who doesn't know shit. Really don't. But I'm learning the other side of history as someone who's never been interested in history. Now all of a sudden I'm magically interested in it because I'm realizing, holy crap, there's so much that we've
there's
has
lessons
been
to learn,
hid
and we've
from
been
us.
deprived.
Yeah.
And all that time we were wasting in school, we could have actually been learning more thorough history. That's incredible.
Yeah.
I did not. So the politically correct, it blows my mind because it's such a opinionated stance. Like,
Yeah.
how can you say that's not politically correct? I had an idea. I want to get to it. You know how they say like, you're fat shaming someone, or you're. I heard a phrase. Lucia was watching The Bachelor, and one girl got mad at another girl, and she goes, "You're glam shaming me just because I was doing my makeup. You're glam shaming me. Sorry that it takes me 30 minutes or whatever, right?" So she said she was glam shaming. But what you're doing when you're being politically correct, when you claim someone is something shaming, is you're shaming them. So I wanted to do like a little skit.
Inception of shame.
So if I said, "Ty, you spend too much time brushing your hair. All right, it should totally take you 5 minutes, and you're in there 30 minutes," and you go, "Michael, you're glam shaming me," and then I could be like, "Ty, you are shaming me right now. You're shaming me for shaming you."
Oh yeah, you're shaming me. Yeah, I have a huge problem with it. It has nothing to do with politics. It has to do with, dude, you're policing the way people talk. You're policing language, and people don't realize when you police language, you're actually policing thought.
Yeah.
And think about it. The reason why that's true is because, like, think about, why do people go to therapy? Like, why do people go to psychiatrists and go to counselors and stuff? Because it turns out when you talk about shit, stuff gets solved. You can actually, like, talking is how we think, basically. Like,
Yeah, we think in words.
What you and I are talking about right now, we probably never, like, some of this stuff I haven't really thought about in detail. I'm just like, we're just kind of, I can't speak for you. I'm kind of talking out of my ass. And it's fun on a show like this because we can figure out shit. That's what society is about. Like, we can say stupid shit that's just wrong. Like, I can say, "Hey, Michael, I think the earth is flat." And you can be like, "Hey, I think that's stupid, and here's why." Mm-hmm. And we can talk about it. But when you have a mentality that's politically correct, quote unquote, you're saying, you aren't allowed to say these things. And then
that's scary.
All thought goes away because you aren't allowed. Like, stupid shit needs to be allowed to be said.
It's really scary.
And even like from the whole like racist perspective, everyone's getting labeled racist and homophobe and transphobe and all that stuff. Dude, just let people say racist shit.
Yeah.
Because then it's like the free market. Like, people don't want to hang out with someone who's like, "I hate black people."
Right.
Like, it corrects itself. You don't need to police like somebody saying the N-word nonstop. You're just thinking, dude, that guy is a racist, and I don't want to hang out with him.
Yeah.
And then problem fucking solved. Like,
Yeah.
God, like, you don't
you're
need to
right.
do anything else.
Well, with politically incorrect, it's people getting offended. So if you say something like, I don't like Jewish people, and I'm like, well, I'm half Jew. You just hurt my feelings. Whose problem is that? That's my fucking problem that my feelings are hurt, not yours.
Yep.
It is not your responsibility to take care of my feelings, because my feelings are the one thing in this world that I can control.
Yep.
And it's not your duty to control everybody else's feelings. It's your
Yeah,
own
dude.
feelings that you have to control. So if we just accept that fact, like, hey, I'm responsible for the way I feel and not the way you feel, then I won't be worried about saying, hey, Ty, not digging the shirt today. You know what? Not digging it. Actually, I haven't really got a good look at it. I just made that up. But
Eagles of Death Metal, baby.
it's pretty badass. Looks like Nintendo font.
Yeah, it's my like favorite shirt because it probably sums up the style of my music. I'm calling this new album. I always have like some made up genre for my albums. This one is psychedelic Nintendo punk.
Okay.
It's kind of like
So
future,
if
it's more
you-
future punk. It's not like punk, but it's
So
just
if you took 2 grams of mushrooms, you threw the Nintendo on,
played Mario.
and you had Converse on.
Yeah.
Psychedelic Nintendo punk.
Yep.
But your Converse they weren't clean. Not like poser Converse, like true punk
No,
Converse. They had
yeah.
the dirtiness on the bottom.
They've got like they're flapping open
Yes.
on the bottom. Yep.
Because you cut them open with a razor blade, that way you would look that
Hells
way.
yes. Hells yes.
So I won't name names, but I gotta throw this out there. In jiu-jitsu, you'll see the same shit, like people trying to put on a facade like the Converse. So there was this guy, he had a belt, and he wanted it to look worn. So he took a razor blade. We didn't see him do this, but you could tell from the pattern. And he sliced it like every inch and a half all the way around, so it looked like the belt had been worn and stretched and stuff. But the tard made it like a perfectly inch and a half all the way around. It's like, dude, you know that we can fucking see that, right? Did you know that? And it's like, you got that belt like a month ago, so you're not fooling anybody. This is that same concept. You find that everywhere. It's a bunch of posers.
Yep.
So I always ask when people come on,
Yeah.
if you could cure the world. I don't know if you've listened. Have you listened to other episodes?
Yeah, I have. I've listened to like half episodes because I'm just
Sweet.
the way my work schedule's been.
Well, if you've made it to the end of any of them, you'd be prepared. I like to
Maybe I
catch you. Okay, you're not prepared. Sweet.
I love that. I'm
Shalia
not
wasn't prepared either.
I like surprises.
You had one solution to cure the world. One solution. If you could think of like the first thing that comes to your mind, that maybe from your gut, what's one thing that we could do to make this world a better place?
We probably already touched on it. My biggest, it's not even like a mantra that I have on purpose. It's just an accidental thing that I realized that I've developed over the years that has helped me a lot was commit to learning from everyone. I don't care who it is. I don't care if even that person. Learn from that person you hate. That neighbor who sucks, that whatever, that person on Facebook is always shit posting and stuff. Dude, I dare you, like, don't unfollow them. Like,
Yeah.
hear people out, even when they're definitely assholes, even when they're definitely racist, even when
Right.
they're definitely fill in the blank, whatever thing you hate the most right now. I think that would cure a lot of people's opinions of a lot of things. Maybe not. It's not an instant thing, but to me, I think there's an infinite amount of things to learn from someone.
Right.
Like I'm learning a lot just talking with you.
Well,
about
likewise.
stuff. And then, dude, from like total people that I don't like, I probably learn more from them, honestly, because you learn what not to do. But then even then, there's usually even if like only like 0.001% of it is good, dude, look for that 0.1. You know,
That light in the dark.
Yeah. That's my advice. Learn from everyone,
That's awesome. Thank you.
regardless.
So one of the reasons I wanted you on today too was so that not only could I talk to you because you're fucking awesome, but give you a chance to share you dropping your album.
Oh, thanks.
Yeah, give everybody some info on where they can get it, where they can
Yeah.
follow you, all of that.
Dude, I'm beyond stoked about this record. So, yeah, for those of you who are kind of just jumping in, my name's Ty Richards. My next album, it's coming up here in a couple months, or really just it's a month out now. It's called Welcome to Flat Earth, and it's out April 20th. You can get to everything from tyrichards.com, but I'm really active, especially on Facebook and Instagram at Ty Richards Music.
That's
Pretty
TY,
much.
right?
Yep, TY Richards Music. And you can get to all of it from there. I'm really stoked about this record because the way that I made it was just so badass. I did it all to tape. And because I did it all to tape, I'm going to offer the album on tape, on cassette tape. And so
that's so
I'm
cool.
going to have a cassette version. I'm going to have vinyl. I'm going to have some other like cool like surprises coming up too. The show, like the release show, is in Austin on 420, and it's going to be at a like a defunct what do you call it, like juvenile detention center. It's going to be badass. I really want it to be, it's going to be an amazing show. I hate like regular lame like club shows, so
Yeah.
I'm making it more like an underground art scene show. So there's going to be I don't want to give away too many surprises, but it's going to be a badass show. There's going to be some other great bands there, and then it's going to just have the feel of whatever, like an Andy Warhol like underground art scene show. That's what I want it to feel like.
That's badass. So, psychedelic Nintendo punk is what they can expect.
That's the made up genre that I invented for this record. Yeah.
What was the genre for your first one?
So this one I'm calling psychedelic Nintendo punk. The last one I would call it psychedelic dance rock.
Oh, that's a perfect fit because I remember listening. That's a perfect fit.
It's dancey, groovy, but I'm all about riffs, man. Like I'm a huge fan of Led Zeppelin. This album was very influenced by Devo. I call this album like it's a cross between, the new album is like a cross between Devo and Queens of the Stone Age, kind of, and there's some Zeppelin in there too. The last album was probably more, probably Beckett. Like people called it Beck Zeppelin because it just had a very like groovy kind of Beck vibe to it.
You told me that last time we hung out, and then I was showing your music to a buddy of mine. He goes, "This is like Beck," and I was like,
Dude,
"Oh, I guess
that's a huge compliment, dude." I mean, in my quest to be original, I've always tried to be original my whole life, and I've realized to me what's better is I would rather like embrace my influences. So I mean, I'm always like super open about my influences. I love Beck. I love Led Zeppelin. I love the band Wilco, Eagles of Death Metal. I'm wearing their shirt right now. Queens of the Stone Age. Some like borderline metal band. They aren't like metal. They're kind of like pseudo metal.
Right.
They get classified into like stoner rock and desert rock kind of categories. I'm a huge fan of like a lot of bands like that. And I like bands that I don't know. I like music that is potent. It's unapologetically what it is.
Right.
And it's not trying too hard to be one thing or the other, but I don't know. That's kind of where I'm at. But yeah, I'm super stoked about this album, dude. The first album took me 2.5 years to make. This album took me 3 months from start to finish, which is a super short period
It puts
of
you
time.
on pace for is it 50 or 60 albums you want?
I want 30 at least before
30.
I die. But if I can do more, if I can get to Frank Zappa status and get 60 albums, dude, I would.
Well, if you knock them out in 3 months, you'll do all right. So you're going to have a show in Austin on 420.
Yeah, 420 in Austin. Check it out on tyrichards.com to get tickets. And I've got some cool like VIP packages too, where we're going to have like a vinyl listening party, and they're going to get it includes like a vinyl record and all this kind of stuff. It's going to be cool, man. And dude, I'm just super stoked about this record though. Like when I did it all to tape, I did not know how to use a tape machine before I started this record.
Mm-hmm.
And then now I know how to use a tape machine after I made this record. So it's just super DIY, but at the same time, I have like a standard of excellence that I try to live up to as well. So it's just me haphazard making this record, but at the same time, like I can't help but be meticulous.
Yeah. Was it don't half-ass two things, whole ass one thing?
Yeah, there you go. There you go. I discovered this with painting. Like I'm really involved in design and illustration, all this stuff, but I am the worst painter ever. And I took a painting class in school, and one of their things was they said for one of the projects I had was you got to paint a series of paintings. You got to make 5 paintings, and it's got to be with something other than a paintbrush. You can't use a paintbrush. And here are your options. And I chose toothbrush.
Okay.
And I had made a whole semester worth of shitty paintings. And I got to the toothbrush times, and I'm like, all right, I got this toothbrush. This is going to be horrible. dude, I friggin' owned with that toothbrush. And that's where you get with like limitations equal freedom. Equal freedom, and it opens up creativity. So the same,
Like a lack of limitations. Equal freedom?
yeah. What I don't know. I'm like all hopped up on caffeine. I don't know what I said.
good.
Yeah, like a lack of like having creative limitations creates a lot of freedom, especially in the creative world.
I got you.
So, for example, yeah, so like that series of paintings with the toothbrush were insane because I was trying to make super detailed, amazing stuff with a toothbrush, and it turned out to be this, just like I was super proud of it.
Well, you are the definition of an artist, making music and paintings. And
Well, that's
producing.
like the only paintings I ever made that I liked. I suck at painting, but I like this album is that version of an album because I have like all this digital stuff with, I have a whole digital setup that I did on my last record where I have infinite effects that I could put on stuff. I didn't use a single computer on this whole thing, so I have no computers. That was my limit this time. I've got a tape machine with 8 tracks. So all I have is 8 tracks. I can do 6 tracks of just drums, and then I'm out of tracks instantly. So it's very limiting. Some of the tracks on, some of the songs on Zillion had like 60 tracks on them.
Whoa.
When you factor in all the doubling vocals and doubling guitar parts and 2 mics on the kick drum, 2 mics on the snare, all this stuff. With this one, I've got 8 tracks, period. And so it was super limiting. And I think that's why I ended up having this kind of like punk rock vibe to it, because it was just me banging out songs with 8 tracks, and it just, it was a lot of fun. It was very old school. It was like the way that the Beatles and that I think Led Zeppelin used 4-track player. They didn't even have 8 tracks in a lot of
So
their
that's where
stuff.
that phrase comes from, is an old 8-track player. They used 8 tracks to make.
Well, yeah, that gets confusing because there's like before. So right now everything's digital. Before that there was CD. Before that there were cassette tapes. Before that there were 8-track. They were kind of like cartridges that go into your car. This is different. This is more like reel-to-reel tape. So it's like those big reels that you see when you like look at like an old Beatles thing or something from the 60s. And on the reel-to-reels, this is super nerdy and technical. People are lost now. On the tape that's around the reel-to-reel, there's only like 8 little strips to like record shit onto.
So it has nothing to do with old 8 tracks.
It's similar. 8 tracks. 8 tracks was more like there's 8 songs. I think. I'm thinking that's the idea of it. I've never actually used an 8-track tape. I have an 8-track.
Fucking millennial.
Yeah, I know. So
What year were you born?
I was born in '87.
Oh yeah, you're a millennial.
So
Me too.
I listened to cassettes and I listened to CDs, but yeah, I don't know. So, but it was just super limiting, man. It was freeing because there was no editing on the album at all because I don't know how to splice up tape and shit. Like people would do that back in the 60s and 70s. Like you'd cut like, oh, I played a bad note there. Or I want to take out this measure and just get rid of it. They would cut the freaking tape and then just put it back together and hope that it was right and play it back and like, oh, that was a beat off, and they would have to splice it again and
my gosh.
Can you imagine editing in that? Like now you can just copy paste and paste shit. And I won't lie, like there's some copy paste shit on Zillion.
Yeah.
Because it's available, but I made it unavailable to myself this round. There's 0 computers involved, so I had to just like keep playing the drum track until I was like, is that good? Was that a good take, or do I want to record over it? And there's no like in the digital world, I could make 20 takes of the drum track, and then I can splice together all 20 of those takes to make the best take ever. I can't do that in the tape world. So
it's more authentic. It's really you.
I'm like, here's the take. Okay, cool. That's good enough. Next, now let's do the bass part. And then I would record the bass part. And it just, the limitation was freeing. It was freeing to just like, even then I'd be like, oh, dude, that drum take or that guitar take was awesome, but I think I could do better. As soon as I start recording over it, I can't go back to it. Like that take is gone forever. It's very destructive editing. So it's just, there's no going back. There's no copy paste. There's no 12 versions of vocals.
It's essentially made from scratch. Even though your other one it's like made straight from scratch.
Yeah, it's a lot. It's a more raw album, and I say it's punk in that it's not necessarily like Blink-182 punk. I call it like neo-punk. It's like future punk. It's punk like Devo is punk. Devo is kind of like a new wave punk, where it was like a bunch of punk dudes playing synthesizers. This album is very synthesizer heavy. There's a lot of guitars too. There's some guitars, but there's a lot of synthesizers. There's a lot of drums. There's a lot of drum machines. It's all over the place. But yeah, it's punk in that it's very anti-authority.
Right.
It's like a kind of basically an anti-authority album.
And we're fortunate enough to have "Going Out for a Cigarette" as our new song,
Yeah, dude.
our intro song, and I think we'll make an exit too.
Yeah, you can make it an outro song.
Cool, man. Well, we're gonna close it out. This
Yeah.
has been one of my favorite podcasts
Yeah.
for sure. Is there anything else you want to throw in there? Or are you good?
I'm sure there's something I'll kick myself on. Definitely check out. I'm really excited about Tremolo Records. Go to tremolo-records.com and dude, I'm probably even more excited about the other albums I'm putting out this year on my label. So check out Jackie Daytona, James Cook, and
So, those sound like famous people.
and John. Yeah, that's my hope. Is like, dude, these dudes already sound famous. The music is good. Let's just ride this.
Yeah.
But yeah, check out tremolo-records.com and check that on Facebook. Tremolo at Tremolo Records on Instagram and Facebook. And that's really, I've had that label for a while because I did it to release Zillion. I created it to release my own record, but now it's turning into a real record label. And these records, these other 3 records that I've got to be a part of are amazing.
That's great, man. Well, like I said, you are a true artist, and thank you again for coming on the show.
Hey, man. Thanks,
been a
Michael.
blast.
You rock. Thank you for listening to A Cure for Your Opinion with Michael Magnus. Visit us online at acureforYourOpinion.com and on Facebook and Instagram at A Cure for Your Opinion.